Affinity Xtra, be extra.
Okay guys, welcome back to INDAMIX. I am here with BGR, as I was saying to you guys before. Had to get the guy in just to speak to him about his music and all that good stuff. Bro, how you doing?
I'm well, thank you, brother. Thank you for having me.
No doubt, man. All the way from London. Is it, what did you say it was, Hackney? No.
Hackney, yeah, Homerton.
Homerton.
Well,
and now
born
you're
and raised, and
yeah.
now I'm living in Manor Park.
So, Manor Park by way of Hackney, Homerton.
Yeah.
Guys, we're going to be talking about his music, just find out what he's doing in terms of like any music that's currently out, anything that's on its way, and just having a general conversation with you. So, bro, for those that don't know, what does the BGR stand for?
Oh, all right, cool. We're gonna try to take you down a streamline of the journey.
Go for it. I'm ready for it, man. I'm ready.
So BGR actually started off as a hashtag.
Okay.
It was initially BG rated. So my first name, my last name, Bradley Goldborn rated. And it started off as a hashtag on Instagram. So for example, if you put out a song or anyone in the creative space, I would put in a comment section, BG rated. Yeah. And I'd let anyone who follows me, if they saw it, he approves it, maybe I'll like it too.
Oh, okay.
But how we got to BGR, a long friend and producer by the name of JRJ called me in for a session. So we met at an event. He heard I make music and I write. And he asked me to come down to a session for another artist to make a song. She liked me on the song. So at the time, I actually wasn't singing, I was an artist. I was just writing and demoing it. And then when we got to the end of the session, he said, "Well, am I putting your name down as?" And I said, "Oh, no." He said, "Cool." But we'd had the conversation about the hashtag. So he said, "All right, cool, BGR." He put it down. And it just kind of stuck. And basically people started going, "Oh, you're BGR, you're BG rated." Yeah. So it stuck. And then last year, there was actually a change in the name. So I started attending ARC 2.0, which is the church I'm currently
Shout out to ARC.
Yeah, in Upton Park. And I was on my way to leaving music. I just kind of felt like nothing was happening. I wasn't hitting the ground running. And then towards the end of last year, Shaq Santima invited me to a session with him as part of the Mobile Unsung. Okay. And then I got involved with Looms, who's my head producer now. And we was in a session. And I had the idea that, okay, well, everyone knows me as BGR, but it doesn't have, I guess, a solid name or a meaning behind it. So I was contemplating on it, I prayed on it. And then I just heard, well, by God's righteousness. So kind of like how, in the Bible, you see God change certain names of people. Yeah. I thought, well, as everyone knows me as BGR, let's keep the BGR, but just change its meaning. Long term, I think it was always supposed to be that. So I think we've hit full circle.
You know what? I didn't even clock that myself. I had no clue. I mean, I saw BGR. I knew your name. Yeah. So my assumption, even up to this very day, was it was based on your name. And I just need to find out what the R was.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now you're telling me that. I'm getting the full story of what, what the revelation is. So that's good, man. And it sounds like you've been doing this thing for a minute in terms of the music and even if it's just the writing. So how long has it been?
So many people won't know. I've been making music since I was 12.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So one of my first songs, was with Monkstar, Noom Generals. He produced the track. And after that, I probably made one or two other songs that, I put on YouTube. And at the time, you're a young man who wants to do music, but not realizing how much of the business is involved in it and how much goes into it. So I left music for a while. And then I think in my late teens, again, as you do, you start getting involved again with people, you start getting into studio. And I think that was where I kind of hit that I don't know what I'm doing. A few managers would be interested, or a few people would say, "Oh, you make music, I love your voice, I love your sound," but could never really do anything with it or push me in the direction I was trying to go in. And then, I think last year was really, after COVID, coming out of COVID, last year was really the point where it's like, okay, I don't know if this music thing is for me, but what I would say, I think the Holy Spirit was just basically telling me it's not going to happen this way. And once I started to find my track and my path in my faith, everything just started to line up. The passion came back. Me being able to be more vulnerable and actually write about myself came back. So yeah, I'd say that's definitely a huge part of the music. Of course, along the journey, I've worked with many different artists, independent, and really grown. So the artistry kind of just, I guess, happened in private, which is very interesting because God often does that with people. Happens in private, and then I guess you become public.
You know what? It's interesting hearing your story, even that little bit there, because the music scene, in terms of, if you we use the words that they kind of use now in terms of like the secular and gospel scene, they're completely different worlds, aren't they? Completely different. I mean, if you're coming from a place where, if I'm understanding right, you started more off in what would be considered as the secular scene, right?
Yes.
And then obviously you're coming over to the gospel scene now. How do you go about making the transition? Because like you said, it's a completely different world. As someone that's also been in the secular scene as well, I know that all that I had access to in the secular, and then coming over to the gospel, it was like a shock to the system. It's like I kind of felt like I was kind of like on my own with not all the things that I'm used to around me.
Right, yeah.
So how did you make that transition? And like, is there anything that you've managed to say to yourself that you've learned from your time in that, which you're able to help you with the stuff you're doing now?
Majorly, I think that preparation period, because I, as I said, at 12, I started off making gospel music, which I had no idea what I was really talking about at the time. I just knew I wanted to talk about God. And then going into the secular space, I grew up on Chris Brown, Usher, all of those kind of artists,
big ones that, I know the ones,
and then you get people making the comparisons because you sing and dance. You're going to be this, you're going to be that. And so your palette becomes more involved in R&B music. So my music's always been around love and romance and those sort of things. But I think as I got older and people wanted to work with me, it was always around the distinct tone I had, which I never at the time believed I had a tone that was like, everyone's going to gravitate to this and love this. And then as I started working with more artists, it definitely refined me and polished me off, because you're writing for different people. You're writing hooks, you're writing verses. It made me very versatile. I think if I had started off in the gospel market and stayed there, I definitely wouldn't be as versatile as I am now. And it exposed me through the journey, where I guess some artists are exposed in the limelight to figuring out who they are. And unfortunately, they go through the ups and downs of audiences and people liking and not liking. A lot of that happened for me in private, which allowed me to really have the freedom, even though I didn't feel like I had the freedom to release the music, but it gave me the freedom to explore and express. And then transitioning into that, a lot of the music's still out. I don't actually think I've removed any of it, if I'm honest. It was something I considered, like, should I take the music down? As a lot of it is contrary to where I am now. Not even just because it's gospel, but just some of it, for the artist's sake as well, is a lot more explicit. Even some songs I'm on, I'm not as explicit as the artist. And I just thought, no, that's part of the testimony, I guess, at the end of the day.
What I was going to say, actually, because I interviewed Still Shady. And he literally had a very similar thing that he was saying as well, that he did a lot of music in the secular, and then when he came and started doing gospel, he didn't remove any of the stuff before, and his reason was, well, it's part of the journey, it's part of the testimony. And I think that's such a powerful thing, because at the end of the day, the Bible tells us, they're saved by the blood and the testimony. Do you know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, if they can't see where you started from, how can they associate? How can they relate to what you're doing, relate to the journey, relate to what it might be that will give them their blessing in order for them to also make the transition. So I think for me personally, I think that's a good thing that people can, he's got music out there, this is what he used to sound like, this is what he sounds like now. I think that's a massive thing, man.
Do you know, adding on to that as well, I think for my personal life, I'm someone who I would say I'm quite closed off. So though people would hear my music was never really testimonial. It never spoke about me. It was always about relationships. And I think now, in hindsight, I'm learning a lot, even in this period of my life, about my past, and really seeing, oh wow, this is where I was in my life. And so my music now is going to be a lot more of that. This is where I once was, and this is why I've come to Christ, and this is why I believe what I believe. I guess it's that as I've matured, now I'm able to speak in hindsight and say, oh, okay, this was the young man I was. And
guys, you know what? I told him to pick out a few songs that I want you to play, just like ones which were his like favorite tracks to listen to, and we're gonna get one of them. So this is King's Speech by It's KC. Tell us why you chose that one.
KC, the young vet, a brother of mine, but not only that, he is a very authentic rapper with a very honest testimony.
Yeah,
I think I love the fact that since I've heard of him, since I've gotten to know him, he's brought his honesty to his music, and just the growth period. I think over the last year I've been getting to know him, and this song, this is one of my favorites to bang in the gym. Do you know what I mean? So he's bringing back real rap. There's a lot of rappers that are hashtagging real rap. Shaq Santeem is another one. Still Shady's another one. But yeah, I think Casey, he's definitely got something about him and his humility that I just love. And when he comes on a beat, it's beastly.
Yeah. Well, guys, you're going to see for yourself. This is King's Speech by It's KC, chosen by my guest today, BGR. So let's get it.
Let's go.
Oops, it doesn't even want to play. Here we go.
We coming for the title, I'm the hungriest disciple. To God I'm still a child, to the pagans I'm a rival. Splash it like a tidal, no revival, this is vital. Slam me on my side, but disguise it as a Bible. Part of my survival, I had thoughts of suicidal. Life was like a cycle to the day of his arrival. I was in denial, need a sign to come and find you. Made it undeniable, it's time to reconcile. Darkness had me bound, but the light is what I found. Resurrection power of Christ, I feel it now. Time to wear the crown, let them hear it in your sound. Let them stand up in the crowd in KC is what they shout. I was losing count of all the times I handed out. Handed them my last pound, left me in a drought. I was on the ground, looked around, they weren't about. Yahweh the only one that never let me down. Took me out the dirt and now this diamond's inbound. Sincerely I can say it daily with my mouth. Didn't hear me, now they about to feel it in the south. KC, young vet, I need to hear you scream it loud. I said I need to hear it louder. Holy Spirit filled, how you think I got this power? Heard about the beef with that pagan that loves devour. So I'm ready for that war like any day and any hour. Aura shining, no it's blinding, so you plan to come and dim it. I've been working on this version on me, praying for a minute. Taking time to be the beacon, but the burden's what I'm feeling. They say they feel it in my rhythms, ain't no gimmick. Really living in the spirit, but on the flesh I had to kill it. Back in days with bid it, licked the risen, then I lit it. I got so high to hide the way that I was living. Now I trust the Most High to come and take away these limits. Because there's something in the air, put it in my bars, make it bang, can you hear? I'ma go clear, real soon, know it's near. Coming from a hellhole, comfy with the fear. When the light appeared, I was blinded, covered up my eyelids. Felt my flesh die, I had a minute full of silence. I was so used to riding, now it's zero for the mileage. Factory reset, got rid of my defects, stepping brand new. See the way that I got decrept. JC came in for me with that HS. Amen, now they call the kid a young vet. KC never had no other interest. From a youth, always brandishing this pen. It's intense, even when it's from a distance. Snap, aim precise when I pick heads.
Yes, guys. So that was It's KC with King's Speech. And like I said, I am joined by my guest BGR. You are listening to, or say you're watching INDAMIX. You could be listening because you'd be on the radio as well. This is INDAMIX and I'm here with BGR. Bro, obviously, like I said, we talked about your music a bit and in terms of how you started the journey and all that kind of stuff. So where did your love of music come from? Like, is it something where like you come from a musical family, or you just like there's a certain track you heard and you just kind of got into it? Where did your love for the music come from?
I can honestly say from my earliest memory, it's probably my dad. He was a DJ.
Okay.
Yeah,
that would do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So he grew up in Hackney. He grew up in all the raves, DJing, and he loves R&B, but he loves house. He's a real house lover. And my mum also, she's one of the Lovers Rock crew, so she loves the old.
I love me some Lovers Rock.
Yeah. So a lot of that, I think, from young, I couldn't tell you how young. I just know I grew up around a love for hearing music, knowing I could make music entirely different. I don't know. Some would say they came out of the womb singing. They could always sing. Yeah. I look back on some of my old videos. I thought I could sing. I realized I couldn't at a time. Some naturally have that vocal, and others have to build on it, get familiar with themselves. But I can definitely say that my parents had a big influence on me wanting to make music. Of course, you have icons like Michael Jackson, who everyone loved. So you grew up listening to that, you grew up watching the videos, and I guess kids dream, I want to be like that. but not everyone actually has the gifts or the talents.
Yeah.
And I just, praise be to God, I'm blessed with the ability to do both.
You know, I think I heard you say, when you were talking earlier, something about dancing. You dance as well?
I started off as a dancer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
I feel like today is a revelation day, man. I find that everything that's new.
Yeah.
So you started off doing dancing and then you transitioned into the singing then?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So is the dancing completely gone, or will we see that in a music video when you're doing some of your songs?
Oh, it might. Do you know what? If the bones allow it,
Yeah,
it might make a reappearance. In some of the work I do dance. So I do a Motown show.
Okay.
So that's part
of
of also what I do. So that's definitely got got me nimble again. But I would definitely like to. It's always something I've said that I love to do.
Okay.
You'll find me in the studio sessions. Sometimes I'll just start moving.
What's that? Some moves. And stuff.
Yeah. So I'm always gonna be a dancer.
Okay.
I'm always gonna want to dance.
It's in the blood, man.
Oh
it's
yeah,
in the blood.
it's there. And my dad was a pop locker. Funny enough. Yeah. So.
I believe it. You said he was a DJ. They kind of go hand in hand, in that, especially in that time as well. So
yeah. So dancing, just to give you a little bit about it, as I said, I started making music when I was 12.
Yeah.
But when I started attending, so I've been at ARC, as in the family of ARC.
Yeah.
I started from Forest Gate when I was 10, and
you know what? That's so funny. The world is so small because you know how. Okay, so I want to say. With comes to ARC in Forest Gate one anyway.
Yeah.
So I actually did or held like 2 events there.
Okay.
From back in the day, I knew a lot of guys. I don't know if it's still the same pastor, but I knew the pastor. I used to do a lot of work with a guy who sadly passed away now called Lucas. Big guys in terms of music and stuff like that. But the ARC for me was very much
Lucas.
from
my gosh,
there.
wow.
Yeah. So for me, the ARC was there from my foundation in terms of the music and everything else like that. So it's a very small world. Like speaking to you now, hearing that you're part of the ARC family, man.
Yes, sir. So I saw a dance group called Rebirth.
Yeah.
And from that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, these guys are so sick. So I wanted to start dancing. Unfortunately, they were like 16 and up.
Yeah.
So I couldn't join.
Too young.
But I auditioned. I was persistent. I auditioned and they gave me a chance. I think there's a video of me on YouTube somewhere, like little 12-year-old dancing with 16 and 17-year-olds. So I was
like
kind
a
of
diversity thing. That little boy that's in the group.
Yeah. So I always got my way in, and then I started dancing with Faith Child. I started dancing with Vic Tizzle. I started dancing with Governor B, like in the like on any of their little shows. It started off, I guess, as showcases. And I kind of everyone got familiar with me, and then I started going on road with them, traveling and doing shows with them, and then I was doing that till I was about 15. But then I realized I want to make music. Like I think being around musicians and artists so long, you know, you start thinking, can I rap? Can I sing? So I gave it a go, and
and here we are today, man. So I know earlier you mentioned that there was a period where you were just about to step out from the music. Talk to us a little bit about that. What was the reason you chose to step away from music? Because I think I read somewhere, you might have said it to me before, that it was about a year maybe you stepped out for, was it?
Yeah.
So what was the reason behind that? And then what was the reason to come back into it?
So the reason to step out of it, I think it was 2 things. One, it was the passion was lost, but 2, it was also life. The passion being lost, I think it was my heart. I guess from a faith perspective, when you understand that God gives you a gift, He gives you a purpose, He gives you an assignment. And from young, I guess, the more I was straying from the initial reason I wanted to make songs or make music, the more it became more of a job. It became tedious. It became tiring. And we're in an industry where it is heavily based on the business side. It's not so much the music. There's so much more that goes into it. You know, shows. There's radio interviews. There's so much. But when you don't have the engine or the machine behind you, it can knock you. 100%. And so I think whilst I was making music, I kept trying to find myself. At the time, I wasn't really aware of how much I would have to do aside from the music. But I kept trying to make songs and make music with people, and it just was never hitting. So I think I just fell out of love with music, not in terms of listening to it or being a lover of music, but making it myself. And then the doubts, the fears, maybe I'm not good enough, that starts to seep in. Although I knew I had something by this point, it just wasn't working. And I think sometimes we accept maybe it's just not gonna work. Life-wise, my parents had just moved to a new house, so I just inherited a house, which was a huge financial responsibility. Life-wise, I'd become self-employed, so there was just so much more that I had to get together. Just responsibilities-wise, and trying to get music off the ground as well. It's financially, it's.
I don't think sometimes people realize just how much work can go into
honestly.
Like, I mean, not only just as an artist, but I think just being in the music industry in general, regardless of what position you kind of play, that it's very draining. I mean, I've had a lot of conversations with artists over the years where they've called me up and they've said, Mark, I'm thinking of just like stopping because
calling it quits.
Yeah, because it's a lot of work. You know what I'm saying? People obviously see you on stage when you're performing and all this kind of stuff, but they don't see like, the late nights writing lyrics or staying up, like just trying to get certain
or
things
the sleepless nights when you can't write lyrics.
All of that. So there's a lot more work in it than just like, appearing on stage, doing your set and then going home. There's so much to it.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate, definitely, like I said, you can get to a point where it's like, it feels like, especially if you haven't got, like you said, the right engine behind you, it can kind of feel like a weight. It's like, oh man.
Yeah.
How much more can I keep doing this kind of thing? You know what I'm saying?
I'm quite a disciplined person.
Yeah.
But at the end of it all, there are times when you need a motivator. You need
100%,
someone behind you that can
100%.
remind you, and I think once I get back on, and once I get in, I'm like a rocket.
Yeah.
But I think my tank was empty. I was trying for so long with no one really behind me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where God stepped back in and said, I'm behind you. One of my favorite songs is Paid the Price. And the reason why, the significance behind the story was I shared a moment with two brothers who both encouraged me to sing and get back into music. And in that verse, I think I come into a session with Looms, and this was like 10:30, as you said, like sometimes it's late.
Yeah.
He just called me up and said, I'm in the studio.
Yeah,
I said, what time are you leaving? He said 11. I said, cool, I'll be there at 10:30. It was 30 minutes I was going to be there.
Yeah.
But, he said, are you writing? And then I was like, no, should I be? Oh, okay. Like, took out my notes, and seamlessly the verse just came out. And I think for me, it was such a pinnacle moment, because it's like, oh my gosh. After not making music for so long and being able to just do that, it was almost like God just took over and was just able to put this down and reflect it to me and say, this is what you're capable of doing.
Yeah.
Do it. So that's how I ended up getting back in.
Yeah. I mean, it's, again, I love hearing like people's testimonies and the journeys and everything else that get to the point where they are now. I seem to recall you saying at one point that that in terms of your music and you as an artist, you don't say that you're a Christian artist. That you say you're Christian, that's an artist. If that's the right way to put
correct.
it.
Yeah.
For me personally, I have nothing against that, but there are obviously people that will be like,
Yeah.
But what is your reasoning for that kind of statement?
So knowing my prior history as a musician, I've hated being an R&B artist. I hate people, because I can do the drill, I can do the trap, I can do the Afrobeats. I'm an R&B singer. That's my vocal style. As for music, I'm a music artist. I make music that is 10/10. None of my music is bad. Okay. Humble brag. But for me, I think when it comes to the Christian market, because I also have an audience that is still in the world, there's this part of me that still wants to make music that is positive, that still wants to make music that may not necessarily be the gospel. It may not necessarily be, quote unquote Christian.
Yeah.
But I know that because my faith and who I am, it's my lifestyle, that's always going to come through. But I don't want there to be a mix up if the song is not then 100% Christian or 100% gospel for it to be then questioned my Christianity. So I would rather people know that I am Christian and the music I make is just, it's music. And then if for example, you have, the genres on Spotify or Apple Music, when you select it, it will always state what it is. So it's like almost like I don't need to speak for it. Let the music speak for itself. I'm an artist. And
like I said, for me personally, I don't have no problem with that. I think it makes sense, because even as you're talking, I think of myself, you got teachers, there could be a teacher that can teach English, and that same teacher could teach German, because maybe that same teacher can
but they
teach
don't
something
have to
else.
specify.
Yeah, so but you won't say that's a German teacher, but you'll just say it's a teacher, and then out of her ability, she can do the English, she can do just, the German or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing with music. Again, like you said, the genres are there not really to identify the artist.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But more to identify the music. So yeah, like you said, you are an artist and this track is R&B or this track is drill, this track is such and such.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best way to do it. But for
I think
those that don't know,
I think for the years I've also been listening to music, and you hear the background of the gospel industry, of the gospel scene. I've heard some of the bigger artists, the backlash they faced.
Yeah, it's crazy
because of the fact that they want to make a song with a certain artist who may not be Christian or and I'm very mindful. I think my manager would also be very mindful. We have these conversations about artists. If I was to ever work with someone who wasn't Christian, and where I stand with that, and anyone I still work with, that isn't Christian, I'm still open to making songs.
Yeah.
They're just very clear on my boundaries and what I will and won't do. So I think now having that revelation and that understanding, it makes it a lot easier for me to be okay to be like, yo, I'm a music artist that makes gospel music, that makes Christian music, and yes, that is my because the commission comes first, so that's always going to be the priority. But overall, I make music.
And you know what? Again, see, I like to bring the word into things, and I'm just thinking as you're talking there. So like, we know there's a part in scripture where the Bible talks about Jesus having gone to the house of a woman that didn't have a good reputation, and they had meal.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, the Bible doesn't say that she took Jesus along with her on her job, and he was involved in whatever else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But he went to the house and he had a meal with her.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that built a relationship which turned out to her completely changing her lifestyle. I think in the same way in terms of the music, like you said, if you was to do tracks with artists which we wouldn't necessarily consider to be Christian artists, obviously they would have to respect your boundaries in terms of how far you would go. But I think the idea of a complete shutdown of, okay, if you're a Christian artist, then you can only do music with Christians. You know what I'm saying? Or if you're, I think for me that it doesn't make sense. Especially, quick shout out to the podcast. We did that quick podcast where we were talking about the fact that there are other music which can literally inspire you or help you to grow. Yeah. And I think same thing in terms of artists like choosing music. I think as long as the music is not, or whatever track they're featuring on is not blatantly like,
it's the distinction between secular and worldly. Yeah.
Blatantly hitting against the faith or completely contrary to what God is saying, and you're right in the midst of it. I think as long as that line is not being crossed, me personally, and I don't care if you got to put your comments in here, right? But me personally, I don't have.
Let's talk about it.
You know what I'm saying?
Let's talk about it. If you have something to say,
that's what I'm saying. So
hit me up. Let's talk.
That's what it is. We're going to get another one of your tracks that you selected, because Lies, I told him to choose 3. This next one, we did King's Speech, so we're going to choose Where Have I Been, because I think that's the one that you did most recently with Luke November. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that track first, in terms of what's the message behind the track, what inspired it, and then we'll get into it.
Okay, cool. So like King's Speech, Where I've Been was produced by Looms, Looms Residence, shout out Looms Residence, and Waters Productions. That's the home of where I produce my hub. Okay. And before we got into Waters, I was making music at home. I had a home studio, and Luke would come around sometimes. I'd throw sessions with friends. Yeah. We'd find a beat that we all liked. Could be 5 or 6 of us in a room. We'd chuck it on. But me and Luke had a session where we was just messing around with beats, and I said, "Yo, let's do something on this." And it's weird because music's one of those things where sometimes you could be racking your head for that line that hits or for the concept. And it literally came out like, he was like, what are you thinking to go with? And I don't know. I feel like, who the sun set free. Yeah. And he was like, yeah, go with that.
I love those jam sessions.
Literally.
I love those sessions.
Like, as easy as I just said it, is it how it came out. That first line was, and then from there, he started writing. So I only had that one line. And I'm someone, I don't write as well as I record. Yeah. So I prefer to just be in the booth, hit record, and let me do it line for line. When I have to sit there and write, I struggle. So to be fair with you, Luke had his verse, and I was still sitting there like, yeah, I'm writing, bro, I'm writing. So what's your verse? And I heard his verse, and it was just, the stink face was so raw. And then that kind of just spurred. So I said, cool, bro, like, he recorded his in, and then after he left, I just sat there for a bit. And the hook thing came into it. And then, from there, it was like, all right, cool, I think we've got a song here that at the time we wanted to make something because of, as we spoke. So what we do with our sessions is because it's not just studio. It's a time for us to commune. It's a time for us to, you know, be brothers and talk about where we're at. And we was both at a place where of transition in our lives, thinking, okay, this is what the gospel has done for us. This is what God's done for us. Let's talk about it. So that's how the song came about.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna let you introduce the song to the guys, man. Tell them.
Cool. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my debut single. This is Where I've Been, featuring Luke November.
The sunset free, stepped away clean. No trace, I was ever at the scene. No crime, no charge, no penalty. No dirt on my feet, wash my soul clean. New ID, shout to Elohim. I'm never going back to where I've been. Focused on the road ahead of me. Focused on the road ahead of me. I'ma stand on it. This way being saved all day, I could bank on it. Exceed it, you couldn't put a rank on it. Left flank, got a full tank, I could bang on it. I've been in the valley of the shadow of the dead, and I had money on my head, but I slept in peace, knowing that I got the Elohim to get out without him. Now we're one, I just turn it to a win. I built my house on sand and it wouldn't stand. I don't understand when I gave it my all. Then the house came down, I was in the middle, it covered around, and it came from my Lord. Promised in the word, got it by the one. Don't do fake, don't do snake, don't play games, no way, I don't do hard. This sunset free, stepped away clean. No trace, I was ever at the scene. No crime, no charge, no penalty. No dirt on my feet, wash my soul clean. New ID, shout to Elohim. I'm never going back to where I've been. Focused on the road ahead of me. Focused on the road ahead of me. For the vision set ahead of me, running by his authority, gliding through the enemy's territory, taking back every claim ever made as to who I would never be. Unashamed or afraid of who I'm called to be. Could never talk on my name, I've heard worse. Standing firm on the word, I'm confirmed. From insecure, I'm secure in God worth. See me dripped out in grace, this ain't work. I couldn't ever earn it, still undeserving. So I'm devoted to giving you all my worship, cause I got some things buried underneath the surface. Day by day I pray you search my heart and turn it. Take me through the furnace, put me for your purpose. Everything you give me, I'm giving back to you in service. Cause I remember who I was before you found me. Through the sunset free, stepped away clean. No trace, I was ever at the scene. No crime, no charge, no penalty. No dirt on my feet, wash my soul clean. Got a new ID, shout to Elohim. I'm never going back to where I've been. Focused on the road ahead of me. Focused on the road ahead of me. Through the sunset free, stepped away clean. No trace, I was ever at the scene. No crime, no charge, no penalty. No dirt on my feet, wash my soul clean. New ID, shout to Elohim. I'm never going back to where I've been. Focused on the road ahead of me. 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 Focused on the road ahead of me.
Alright guys, we are back here with BGR. That was his track
Where I've Been,
there you
featuring
go.
Luke November.
Luke November in there as well. Listen, the track is just big. Make sure you guys are streaming that one, downloading it. We want to get that one pumping through.
Thank you.
I'm sure he'll appreciate the streams.
Yeah, 100%.
Bro, that obviously been your debut track. Like I said, the track is big. The track is big.
Thank you, sir.
What can we expect going down the line now in terms of music content? Is there anything else coming for this year?
There actually is, yeah. So we're working on getting 1 or 2 more releases out. I am currently in album mode.
Okay.
So there will definitely be a project coming by God's grace and financial financial ability. It will definitely be coming out mid next year, I'd like to say.
Okay.
Yeah. So it will be soon. a nice body of work, R&B for the R&B fans, but also songs like this, you know, that really capture, I think, my love for versatility of music.
I think the track itself, that last one that we did there, is like one thing I really like about that track is I've said it to people before, one of my biggest struggles when I first started getting into Christian music was literally losing what I thought was a big section of music which was really good, and coming to gospel and I didn't find it as good. What I really love about that track with you and Luke November is that I feel that track can be played anywhere. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like if I'm in church with the youth, I can play that track. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right,
If I'm on road with just random guys, I can play that track. You know what I'm saying? That track can pump in a club. It can. That's the kind of track.
Gym,
That's what I'm saying. It's one of those kind of tracks, and I think that's the standard that we need to be aiming for. Like that kind of standard, and going even further as much as we can. You know what I'm saying? As people in the music industry. So for you, like as an artist, like how long does it take you to make a track like that? And what, you know, decisions, like, are you the kind of person that will be cutthroat with your own music and say, you know what, that's not good enough, I need to do this, or I go back and rewrite the whole lyric or redo the music again? How are you when it comes to developing your own music?
I think if you're an artist that doesn't have some form of perfectionism complex, something is wrong. Overcoming it is definitely healthy. We, as artists, as creators, we always need to overcome that perfectionism, because music needs to be made, or you know, the art needs to be created, it needs to be pumped out. But for me, I'm someone who's very critical. I don't like mediocrity. I'm heavily against mediocrity.
I'm the same way. I am the same way.
When I make anything, if I do anything, there's a sense of excellence that has to be behind it. And especially with this song, because I was also rapping. So I guess my debut single was not conventional. It wasn't just me. And it wasn't just the typical 2000s R&B genre. I had a feature on it who was a rapper and drill artist, and it was on a gritty beat. So I was already up against the odds, because that's not what everyone would expect from me. Especially if I was to release anything after that, it's, well, what's going to follow up? So specifically to that song, it was definitely about, I listened very well to the cadences. You could ask my producer. I'm very much there in the process of the mix and the mastering. I'm very particular, and I think that's just a blessing of having the time to have a studio of my own as well. The years I've collated with other producers and working and getting familiar with the sounds to know, okay, that's not quite. It could be a frequency, and you know, you want to be in that realm of genius. You know, I think that's where we aim to be as creatives. We don't want to just be making music. We want to become geniuses at our craft. We want to inspire the next generation or others to really sit down when they, you know, watch videos of us or they see us in studio or see us doing certain things and say, wow, he really, you know, paid attention to this. And I think that's where the heart is, when the response isn't, sometimes it's disheartening. When we really know we've put into something, and you don't get the response you want. But then at the same time, I'm bumping it. So that's the part, I think, of the perfectionism I had to get past as well, is loving the fact that I actually listen to my own music genuinely, not because it's me. I love the song. And what I tend to do is I'll play my music against other artists. So I'll be in the car and I'll put it in the playlist. And then I'll just want to hear sonically, how's this sitting? How's this sound? Would I listen to this in the mix of this? And I also have a network of artists over the years, one of which puts on an artist link up. So you'll get all different types of artists and they all play their songs. Now I've been going to this thing for 3-4 years. Now I'm all of a sudden coming out as an artist who makes gospel and playing these songs, and it's like you're thinking, they're not used to this. Most of them aren't saved. They're gonna think, what is this? And I think the response was very well received, because the first thing they said was, bro, you can sing, like you're such a sick vocalist.
They're surprised, isn't it?
And then they heard the beat. A lot of them like this type of stuff, and then they heard the lyrics and they were like, wait, fam, are you talking about God? Like, do you know how good that is? And I think that's what I want people to take away, is when they hear the song, the last thing you hear, or even if it's the first thing you hear, you don't want to just hear it's Christian so it's acceptable. You don't want to just hear it's about God so it's acceptable. You want to hear, bro, that message hit, like that inspired me, that made me think differently. So that's how my approach to music is. Whether I'm listening to it as a Christian or whether I'm listening to it as a non-believer, I want everyone to be able to take from that music and hear something that's like, that's impacted me. So,
okay, so you're an artist, you've been doing your music. If you wasn't doing music, what would be the thing you'd be doing?
That's a very good question. Okay. What would I be doing if I wasn't doing music? I think I'd be acting.
Oh, for real? Okay.
Yeah. So I'm a triple threat. So I studied BTEC National Diploma in Performing Arts.
Oh, wow.
And I was actually meant to go to university, but didn't take that route.
Yeah.
So I think if I wasn't dancing, if I wasn't making music, I'd be acting. And if it wasn't anything in the creative space, I think I'd be an investor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Complete different areas. Completely different area. Yeah.
I think I'd be an investor. I like being the middleman. I like being able to help other people. I like being able to put in and help others as well to achieve. So I think that would be if I paid more attention and put more emphasis into it, that would be where I'd be. Yeah.
All right. So let's paint this picture for you. You're at home, sitting down. I don't know. Maybe you're playing a bit of FIFA or you watch one of your favorite movies. Your phone goes off. It's DJ Shuns, and he says, "I've just received a call on the other line. Stormzy's here. He's saying that he wants you to open one of his shows for him."
Okay.
Yeah. You get to do one song. What song that you've either created or featured on would you play? Or if not a song that is currently out, what genre would you say, okay, I'm going to do this genre of music for the show?
Oh, it would 100% be Where I've Been.
Okay.
100% would be Where I've Been. I think for two reasons. Shows, you have to be very mindful. If you get one shot, I've done many showcases. I've seen many showcases over the years. And you could have a great R&B song and it's slow. Unfortunately, it's the one song you got.
Yeah.
And people won't always remember that.
That's true.
I'm not, I would say, a vocalist. I would say I'm a singer. There are vocalists who can sing and belt and riff and do all the bells and tricks. I have a great stage presence. So I think I would also want people to take that away and remember me on stage and how I presented myself. I think the first concert I went to was like a party. It was a well-known artist, international artist.
Yeah.
And just being in the audience and watching the crowd enjoy themselves whilst the artist was performing was that's what I want to take. So whenever I do shows or if I open up for anyone, whatever I do, it's a party you've come to enjoy. So I definitely picked that song for that reason. Yeah.
And obviously today you've shared a bit about your journey in terms of where you've come from. One thing I always try to do, as someone within the media, is to kind of encourage other artists and provide doors open for them to come in and do stuff. If you're thinking, okay, you've got to the point you are now where you know your sound, you know how to write your songs and all that kind of stuff, but if you're talking to the youngsters, what kind of wording of encouragement would you give them in terms of how they should approach their music, how they should approach lyric writing? If they haven't got an engine or a manager or whatever else, what they can do to try and help them get to where they want to get?
I would say the first thing is your craft. Refine your craft, find your sound. And it can sound so technical. What do you mean find my sound? There's something you naturally gravitate to. You just know you like the sound of that artist. You like the sound of the music. You might even like something about them. I think we can all say we're inspired and we all learn from someone. We start somewhere, and out of that we start to birth our own identity. So I think it's twofold. You want to find a lane that you can get into, but also you want to find your authentic self in that lane. What makes you around the music, the side of it, the producers, and start with YouTube beats, TikTok. I think in this generation as well, Instagram, even if it's a soundbite of a beat and you just loop it, I think there's so many ways and the access to making music. If you have to save up a little bit of money and get Logic on a computer, and do it that way, I think we think so far in the future. We limit ourselves to the smaller goals as to the steps we can take right now. So I definitely say for a young artist, first and foremost, it's about you, your craft. Then it's about your story. It could be something. I did a workshop in a school recently, actually, and I was saying to the students, it could be something about making a pizza. Make a song about the toppings on the pizza. Get used to getting words out. A hindrance of mine was I never wanted to share my story. I never wanted to speak about it. One, because I undervalued it. So I'd say that's third. Don't undervalue yourself. Don't overlook yourself. Your story matters. And what you want to share matters. And the only way you get better at sharing it or speaking on it is by doing it. So do it. And then fourth would be, when you do get into those spaces, be humble enough and willing enough to learn. Because you're likely going to be in spaces with people who do know more than you, who do know better than you. And I think producers, I think that sometimes there's this stigma where producers think they know it all. It's not that. But the job of a producer and an engineer is to help bring out the best in you.
Yeah.
And so sometimes if you come across like you know something, they'll challenge you to see how much you really know. It's not that they're trying to defeat or, undermine you.
Yeah.
But see how you can work together and build that rapport and that relationship. And I think those 4 things will definitely improve the steps to coming out as an artist and making good music.
And the thing is, for me, I think as an artist, you need to have that kind of that spirit that is willing to learn from other people, because
it's important.
You can't do this job as an artist by yourself.
No,
you definitely can't. And I think you need to be able to pull on from people, like you said, whether it be producers, your manager, booking it, whoever's got experience in certain things. Obviously, a lot of the time when we do start by ourselves. So we find ourselves wearing multiple hats. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But as you see, you've got your building, you've got your team, and you're getting close to people. Definitely, I think it's so important to really say, I need to pull your information because this is good stuff here, and I think that's the only way we can grow as artists.
I'd say 5, so I'd add a 5th to that. Knock down doors.
Yeah.
Knock down all the doors. If you see potential for a manager, they may decline you. Knock down another door. Just knock down doors. Don't stop. Yeah.
And the thing is a lot of people don't realize that the journey, that they just see the finished product of the artist. I'll give you a typical example. So I had the opportunity many years ago to work in an academy, a music academy, where they had a lot of young people coming through, teaching them to write lyrics, music, stuff like that, stage presence, all this kind of stuff. And they were so hungry to learn because they were so eager to do something in the music industry. Do you know what I'm saying? So they came there and they were just really soaking in from all the people that were teaching them. And now a lot of them now are going on to do great things. Do you know what I'm saying? One of the biggest people that came through that academy was Stormzy. Do you know what I'm saying? But he started off from a place of learning and pulling on from the people, not just in our academy. I'm sure there's plenty of other places he was doing before, but literally pulling on from the people so that he can now be this person that is known worldwide. You say his name and everybody knows who he is. But at one point he had to pull and learn, and I'm sure he's still learning even now. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we never stop. You never stop learning. The greatest teachers are even better students.
Yeah.
So I think it's key that you take on that willingness, that spirit of learning, and I think enjoy it.
Yeah.
You have to fall in love with learning new things and gaining knowledge. That's a huge part of it. Big. My producer Looms is always he sings. As much as he probably won't want me saying this, but he can sing. And sometimes he'll have me in studio and be like, bro, do this. I'm like, what? Why though? Or, you have to be willing to also test the waters. And that's what people will bring out of you when you're willing.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Well, guys, we're coming towards the end. Where can they find you online if they want to follow you, your music, all that kind of stuff?
So the best place to find me at present is on Instagram. So it's my first name, Bradley _ No, I changed it. It's Bradley.Goldborn. I'll spell it out because it's not the easiest name. So it's Bradley with a LEY .Goldborn, which is GOULBOURNE. And then from there, you'll find me across everywhere else. You'll find all my music, all the platforms, TikTok, everything is on there.
Yeah, I'm going to pop that up on the screen as well because I'm not going to try and repeat that because I'm going to get it wrong. I'm going to pop it up on the screen as well for those of you watching on YouTube. Just before we go, we've got one track, and this is a special little peek that you guys are hearing of a track that has not been released yet. So, am I right in saying this is the first sample? This is the first sample that you guys are going to get from this track here, the very first. We're not going to play the whole track. We're just going to give you a little taste because we want you to go out and stream it, all that stuff when it comes out. Tell us quickly about the track, the name of it, and what's the story behind that.
So earlier you asked me, in fact, how long it takes me to make a song, and I didn't say anything because I was hoping we'd get to this portion of the show. So this song actually came up because we had a release in mind. Unfortunately, the feature artist we couldn't get on at the time, and we're adamant we want the feature. So because of the time frame, Shuns was like, okay, we need another song, and it's like, okay, when's the deadline? This is the deadline. So I called up Looms and I was like, bro, we need to get in the studio. And I literally got in the session. I remember saying to him, we don't have time. Like we're not messing about today. We got to get in.
Just put it down.
Yeah.
Go.
Of course it was still enjoyable, as the sessions will always be. But I was driving to the studio, I believe. So it was a busy day. I came from somewhere else. I'd literally just got a haircut and I'm driving to the studio. responsibly. And I was thinking, I guess you start kind of milling over ideas. What am I going to do in the studio? And I heard Gone. I was like, okay. And then as I said, I'm in this place of reflection. So I was thinking about myself and where I'm at, and entrusting more in the Holy Spirit. And so I heard one line which was gone, gone, gone. And it was like, okay, cool. Maybe I'll save that for something.
Yeah.
Got into studio, Looms pulled up, Logic, started messing around with loops, started messing around with some ideas. And we both heard a sample, a loop.
Yeah.
And we looked at each other and said, oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the main parts of the song. So from there, it was line by line. As I said, I don't typically write my songs.
Yeah.
Put the mic in front of me, press record, we'll go over it, and line for line, the song came out organically as you're about to hear it.
Cool. Well, guys, like I said, this has been the interview with BGR. Make sure you tune into the next show as well. Obviously, as I always say every week, follow Affinity Xtra at Affinity Xtra on all socials. And obviously myself as well. Marx1 on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, the whole lot. This is BGR with Gone. I'll see you guys again next week.
Stop looking at the man in the mirror, cause the vision wasn't getting any clearer. Truth be told, I had to lose it all together. Daily struggles had me buried under pressure. Free up my mind and look for something better. Studying through the pages, trying to live it by the letter. So imperfect but undefined by the error. I had to move aside and put you at the center. I'm looking at the light in the distance, and floating on the wind against resistance. As I walk this road, will life teach me balance? I embrace this journey with faith, love, courage and guidance. Gone, gone, gone by the wind. Gone, gone, gone by the wind. Gone, gone, gone by the wind.
Visit us for updates and shows at affinityextra.co.uk.